When you're working with a rock star, you can take bigger creative liberties because you have an opportunities to really flex and show what you can actually do. And Alice really gave us permission to be creative, and it worked out really interestingly because we wanted to do these creative elements. So lots of skull imagery, blood imagery. This is Alice Cooper in a nutshell, right? How can you get any more Alice Cooper than this?
I'm Alice Cooper, and this is LGFG. Not for the faint of heart. Absolutely amazing suit.
Okay, one of the things that we gotta hang out with Alice Cooper a little bit, man. And he's a guy's guy. He's not living out in some distant universe. Like, he golfs. He's very haptic, right? Like, he's really good with his hands. He golfs. He's a profoundly good athlete. Did you guys know? I think he ran a 4-minute mile. He was a top runner in his high school and I think in his state. Like, he was a legitimate athlete. So Alice is definitely, and he's physically like in amazing shape, right? Like, he was 74, 75 when we were with him. And even today, like, he's, 60, what is he now? 77, 78. He's still touring, jumping around on stage like a young guy. I remember me and Henry, our video guy, we were filming with Alice Cooper for about 4 hours and we were so exhausted. And Alice is like, let's do more. Like, he was so energetic and so high energy. It was wild. Like, that guy's got an endless supply of energy, right? So coming back to this whole sports thing, Alice was actually born in Detroit. And when we saw him, he was living in Phoenix. We saw him in Hawaii. At the time, Alice was a regular at the Phoenix Coyotes, Arizona Coyotes hockey games. Now that team has moved down to Utah. But Alice was a noted fan of the Arizona Coyotes hockey team. He likes hockey. He loved the Red Wings growing up. So we have a Red Wings themed suit here. We actually found a Red Wings classic lining that also had signatures of some of the original Red Wings, like guys like Gordie Howe, And so we did a Red Wings theme outfit, and I asked Alice's manager what number we should put, and he goes, well, he usually wears 18, and that's a reference to the song I'm 18. So the Red Wings, the seersucker is a suit for the Kentucky Derby. It's a showy piece. It's a summer piece. Seersucker pants are great for golf. It's a very artistic garment. It's a showpiece, obviously, and this is again complicit to the image of Alice Cooper. So we have a seersucker, Detroit Red Wings, Alice Cooper, 18, the suit.
I was born in Detroit, so Detroit is hockey town. So the motif on this, of course, is the Detroit Red Wings, and not only is it's the classic Detroit Red Wings when they didn't wear helmets, and these were the toughest guys in the world. As you can see, if you were not a Detroit fan in Detroit, you would get killed. So you had to be a Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons. This is my hockey. Go Red Wings.
So this green suit is in fact very special. I'll tell you guys why. This has become a feature that's been defining for LGFG with our clients. The buttons on the suit are made out of carbon fiber. So we had to source carbon fiber, make it into buttons. It was quite a project to do that. Nobody was doing that at the time. And we said, well, we're making a suit with a theme of cars because this is the Under My Wheels suit. So Alice had a hit song called Under My Wheels. And I thought, okay, well, because Alice Cooper loves cars, he has an Aston Martin, he's got some classic Dodges, like he's a real big car guy. So we want to do a car themed suit. So when you're going with a car themed suit, there's a couple things. Number one, you want to go green because you have that sort of green means go. It's a very racing color. That particular vibration of green, let's say, that sort of a gradient of green is a very racing looking color. We have the piping around to kind of represent the road, right? The lines on the road. Racing stripes, let's say, the stripes give it speed. They look pretty cool. And again, because it's Alice Cooper, we did a panel back, which means the back has imagery on it. This isn't something like we would do for a client that's like working in an office or anything like that. Again, we're talking about a rock star, so this is an opportunity for us to be creative.
Of course, being from Detroit, I'm a motorhead. Always had muscle cars. Wrote a song called Under My Wheels, and the motif here would be wheels. Detroit muscle car wheels. Now, if you were going to buy a used car in Detroit and I came out in this suit and said, I got a car for you, you'd buy it, right? I mean, look at it. You'd have to say, what a great suit. Yeah, I'll buy that car.
Alice tells the story better than me, so maybe we can play that story. But it's the story of how they parked a giant truck in Piccadilly Surface with an avant-garde picture of Alice Cooper with a giant snake on him covering his private parts.
We were vaudeville. Shep and I came up with the idea of hell's a poppin', which meant the Hollywood publicity stunt. We stopped traffic in London for a full day because we pulled a Hollywood publicity stunt, which you can see here. Alice naked. Richard Avedon shooting Alice Cooper. Stuck in the middle of traffic at Piccadilly Square at rush hour on Friday. It stopped traffic. They didn't arrest us. Can't have everything. We tried to get arrested, but we couldn't. And they got the joke. Launched us in London.
And because this happened sort of in I don't want to say archaic times, because I mean, this basically happened in like the 60s. We wanted a 60s, 70s look to a suit that reflected that story, which was a really foundational story, the building of the Alice Cooper brand and the Alice Cooper institution. You know, that sort of nonconformist, that anti-establishmentarianism that was represented through rock and roll, generally, and Alice Cooper specifically too. So we wanted a suit that reflected the olden days, right? When things were a lot hairier than they are today. Talking about suits, of course, and that's corduroy. It's a furry suit, you know? Guys, if you're enjoying this, I implore you to check out this book, The Michael Franzese Guide for Mastering Style and Elegance, where Michael Franzese takes you through a journey of everything that a man needs to know about suits, safari jackets, bomber jackets, different kind of lapels and fabrics and patterns, and how to match different patterns, how to match fabrics to different occasions and events. You have a quintessential and full encompassing shoe guide here and all the different kinds and types of shoes. Everything you want to know about jackets, suits, shirts, pants, shoes, everything to do with clothing is in this encyclopedia. It's truly, Michael calls it the Bible, right? It's the Michael Franzese Guide for Mastering Style and Elegance. Check out the link and go ahead and get yourself a copy of this book. Guys, if you're enjoying this, I implore you to subscribe to this channel. You can get really cool stories about our work with global celebrities like Michael Franzese, like Ozzy Osbourne, like Alice Cooper, like Phil Heath, like Ronnie Coleman, like Jordan Peterson. You can get a lot of cool information about their clothing and their suits and how we design them and what they wear right here on this channel. Please give us a follow. So we have two jackets. We have a purple and a green. Again, when you're a bespoke fashion company, when you're a bespoke suit house, like a lot of the garments you make are kind of the same. There's not a lot of distinction because it's a lot of different shades of gray and blue. And that's a fact. And that's okay because a lot of men, they don't want to stick out, right? Like they're in an office, they're in an environment, they don't want to look crazy. They just wear blue and gray, and that's perfectly fine. But when you're working with a rock star, you can take bigger creative liberties because you have an opportunities to really flex and show what you can actually do, right? We have these fabrics, so why not create something that is so fun to do that we don't do for a typical client, because we don't have a lot of typical clients that are going to want a purple suede or velour or whatever jacket, right? And in this case, of course, we have velvet. There we go. Not a lot of times you get to make a purple velvet jacket. And we make velvet jackets. Like we've done velvet for, Martin Ford and Eddie Hall. So you've seen Russell Peters, blah, blah, blah. So here we went with two velvet jackets, green and purple. And these jackets are a commemoration. They're commemorative of Shep Gordon, Alice Cooper's extremely, extremely influential manager. Shep has a book called Supermensch, and there's a movie about it too, and I really recommend you read it. It's an incredible memoir of an insane time in rock and roll.
Shep has been my manager for 53 years, and we have the longest running relationship, I think, in rock and roll for sure, and probably the most sought after manager in the business, and I am his only client at this point, best friends and all that. Still don't have a contract with each other. We just, it's all based on trust. But the great thing about the relationship is actually, it started out with a lie. He told me he was a manager and I told him I was a singer. Eventually we became those things. And the most sought after guy you could get. Can you imagine managing Alice Cooper and Groucho Marx at the same time? I don't think I can.
So we wanted to commemorate that with these two jackets, a green and a purple velvet for Alice Cooper. So yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the shirts, and let's talk a little about the shoes and the belt. So we made the shoes, of course. He loved those shoes. He thought they were so cool. And on the Detroit Red Wings seersucker suit, notice the shoes. They're slippers with skulls on them. Man, can you imagine Alice Cooper waking up and sliding on his skull slippers? Of course he does. I'm going to get skull slippers after this, I swear. We made all the shoes. The monk strap blue on the green suit, that's a beautiful monk strap. Again, hand-painted patina, blue on blue monk strap is amazing. And then we have the brown monk strap on the corduroy suit. Again, very 1970s. That is a fantastic look. So croc skin, patina painted monk strap. That's a serious shoe, man. That is a big boy shoe. The belt is going to be your faux croc skin belt. But the reason we did the belt actually is because we also did a couple pairs of jeans for Alice Cooper. And I thought, well, will Alice Cooper wear jeans? He loved the jeans, right? Now, keep in mind, these are not the body-hugging, torn-up jeans of the youth today. These are the classic jeans. A lot of our clients like a classic straight leg jean, something that is smart casual, and it's made with Japanese stretch denim, incredible denim. It's so stretchy, you can like pull it. It's so comfortable. It feels like a pajama in a jean. And then the shirt is very unique here. Okay, so if you guys notice, it's actually our blood red linen shirt. There's a theme of blood that runs through the wardrobe of Alice Cooper. Alice loves imagery with blood. We'll get in more into that. He thinks it's so funny and interesting, and his manager Shep does not like blood, so there's a little bit of that. This shirt was actually made to be a tuxedo shirt. We didn't put it on for the tuxedo, and the reason I picked linen is because linen is kind of like, it's not a unitary color, like it's got different sort of complexities underneath because linen isn't, colored so consistently because it's a looser weave, so it has a little bit more of that blood look. But the buttons are actually inserts, right? They're studs that you put into buttons that are not there. You get these metal studs and they're skulls. So Alice tells a really good story about this suit. That's the electric Frank Zappa suit. We want an electric blue suit. We actually went with an interesting material for this suit. So a rockstar suit, it's electric blue. And Alice tells the story of Susie Cream Cheese.
When we first started, we met with Frank Zappa, and he signed us. But he had a friend named Susie Cream Cheese. And Susie Cream Cheese, she would look at us and she'd go, "Oh, love it to death." And we picked that up as our first title for our what I call the first Alice Cooper album, was really Love It to Death. And so we love it to death. It's sort of a very glam thing to say. And this is certainly a glam suit. T-Rex would have loved this one.
Now, here's what's interesting. So the straight jacket vest, so we made a pattern for a vest, never been done before. We had to custom design it because like no guys in the store, like I need a jacket, the button, that straps itself like a straight jacket. So we made the straight jacket. There were two songs in particular that I thought about that influenced the design of this jacket. Number one is The Ballad of Dwight Fry, which tells the story, of a guy that's kind of like in a mental institution, see my lonely life unfold like that. So a really good, powerful song about a guy that's basically losing his mind. And the other one was the song Steven by Alice Cooper, which may be my favorite Alice Cooper song, actually, Steven. Again, produced by Bob Ezrin, lots of classic elements in that song, beautiful song. And it, again, talks about a guy that's practically losing his mind. And so losing your mind, going crazy, being confined to mental institutions are all themes of Alice Cooper's music. And so this is a jacket, the straight jacket, and of course the look there to reflect that. And then Alice told a story that the Ballad of Dwight Fry was actually based on Boris Karloff. So let's have Alice tell that story of how he was inspired into that sort of direction.
There's a story to everything. If you've ever seen the original Frankenstein, Boris Karloff, of course, very frightening. And if you've ever seen the original Dracula, Bela Lugosi, very frightening. But who was the scariest character in both movies? It was Fritz, the little hunchback, and it was Renfield, the little guy that ate the flies and the spiders. Both of those guys was played by an actor named Dwight Fry, who never got any recognition. He was easily the scariest character in both movies. So the band said, why don't we do a song about Dwight Fry? Well, of course, he was in a mental institution, and he was in a straitjacket. This one's a little easier to get out of. The one I use on stage is a lot harder. But the motif on this is straitjacket. Don't try this at home.
You notice too that the suit itself, the way that it sounds, it's got a duck's bill peak lapel. So it's not a straight peak lapel, it's a curved peak lapel, lower. It sits lower as well, which is a very British look. Again, a little bit of a throwback to suits maybe around the time of the 1980s. And I love that because for Alice Cooper, it's again, very tangential, having that sort of like an old schooly, because remember, he's into horror and comedy, and these are all things like the B movies, all that kind of stuff. Very reflective of his brand, very black.
Black is Rock's color. And just happens to have all 28 of my albums in here. 2 more in the making right now, which will be 30. Not too bad for a band that they said would never make more than 1 album. We outlasted everybody. Black.
Yeah, the suit itself is also a one button. So again, it's a little bit more, see, the thing about suits like that is like most suits you're going to see are going to be notch lapel, 2-button side vents. Very simple. Like that's 95% of suits. And so when you're getting into like little details to show off the stylistic features of a suit, you have a 1-button front, you have a duckbill lower peak lapel, you have the custom lining, of course. Like these are all little, the 2-button cuff or whatever. Like these are all different elements that sort of add to the bespoke design of a suit that sort of make it a little bit different from what you see every other day. Yeah, so a very, very slight pinstripe with the Alice Cooper imagery inside. Of course, handmade, amazing. Notice also the button on the suit is a cloth-covered button. So cloth-covered buttons are a stylistic feature typically reserved for women's suits. And one of the things, and I like cloth-covered buttons, especially on tuxedos. Like on men's tuxedos, you see cloth-covered buttons. They're reflective of something of an elegance, right? I don't know how they became associated with women's suits because usually women's suits have that. So the cloth-covered button is a little stylistic feature. Again, handmade suit. And if you guys are clients of LGFG, you know we have something called the Artisano collection. And Artisano is 100% handmade. It's the most comfortable garment you'll ever put on. So why is it that handmade garments are more comfortable? The reason is that machine stitching is consistent and straight across, so it's functional. But tailors, when they work with a garment, they feel the garment. There's a lot of like art involved, right? So they feel how it pulls, how it stretches. They can get some of the threads a little bit looser, some a little bit tighter, some a little, like they kind of, they play around with the fabric and the thread and they feel it. So when they make it, there's an element of feel to it, right? And so when you put on a garment that's fully handmade, it feels different because it pulls different, it drapes different. So we're one of the companies that still makes a 100% handmade garment. We delivered it for Alice Cooper. And by the way, like this was not a paid endorsement, right? Like we just happened to do Alice's wardrobe. Like whatever he says is the unfiltered truth. And it's interesting what he says about the suit.
This feels like I was born in it. I mean, it just hangs perfectly.
Guys,
out of all the suits, this one just goes, oh, I am you.
Think about handmade. It's amazing.
Inside, you've got me in a straitjacket. Seem to spend a lot of time in a straitjacket. I don't know why. Maybe they know something I don't know.
So this was the centerpiece of the collection, the asymmetrical blood tuxedo for Alice Cooper. You'll see him wearing that with Dolly Parton. You'll see him wearing that when Alice is inducting Judas Priest into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's wearing the LGFG tuxedo. You notice the asymmetry on the lapels. One lapel is red. So that one lapel that's red, it's not there. It's more than just red. It's also shaped like an axe. So you see that lapel, it's a duck's bill curve and it's red. It's blood. So this lapel represents beheading, which makes sense. The other lapel is a standard notch. And so inside the suit, you have blood splatter. That was Alice's favorite piece. Notice on the back, we also included showy like skulls. And the buttons for this tuxedo are also skull buttons. So everything on this tuxedo screams Alice Cooper, screams horror, screams comedy.
Alice Cooper, always known for 3 things: theatrics, rock and roll, and a little bit of blood every once in a while. Horror and rock and comedy are all in bed together. And that's what we mixed it all up and turned it into Alice Cooper. So the idea of blood, as you have in here, shouldn't startle you. It should just be part of Alice Cooper.
Yeah, so the bed of nails jacket has a couple other interesting stylistic features. Number one, skull buttons. Okay, look, bed of nails, skulls. This is a theme that recurs consistently through Alice's wardrobe. We also did tuxedo lapels on the bed of nails jacket. I think it's super funny because one of the lines in the song Bed of Nails is, they go to a hotel room and they say when they hear us screaming, they're going to kick down the door. And so there's this sort of romantic undertone to the song. It's about seduction, right? The song's about seduction. So it's like a seductive tuxedo lapel, like a funny way to communicate seduction is putting a bed of nails jacket together with a James Bond feel, like you're seducing, And then we also gave it the little military shoulder straps with the skulls on it. And that was, again, to represent the sort of steampunk nature of the vision of a bed of nails. It's a steampunk look, right? So we're combining elements of steampunk, elements of seduction, elements of like just the very raw nails of the song, all into this incredible bed of nails suit for Alice Cooper.
Out of all the songs that we play on stage, there are 2 that are musts. The big hits were School's Out in 18 and Under My Wheels and songs like that. No More Mr. Nice Guy. Poison was a huge hit. But the song that most people want to hear on stage is Bed of Nails. Thus, a bed of nails. Ow, 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 ow.
So this is a CEO suit, right? Like an executive suit. The double-breasted pinstripe is an executive suit. It's a power suit. And it's like, here's Alice Cooper, CEO, right? And we had a funny conversation where Alice said, why would you make me a pinstripe suit like a CEO? And I said, Alice, because every CEO wishes they were a rock star. And that's actually true. Let me tell you guys something. So Alice Cooper is friends with Jeff Bezos. They share a friend in Shep Gordon. So Alice Cooper's got a manager, Shep Gordon. Shep is very good friends with Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos hangs out a lot with Shep and Alice. And I asked Shep, why is Jeff Bezos hanging out with you? What's the thing that Jeff gets from you? It was the question. It's a legitimate question. It's a fair question. And Shep said, Jeff Bezos is so smart. He's figured out like life and he's figured out companies and he's, become wealthy and he's accomplished amazing things in his life, right? But he wants to be cool. And if you want to be a rock star too, well, LGFG fashion, listen, you have an opportunity. This is crazy, right? Like you have an opportunity today to wear the suits that Alice Cooper wears, to wear the suits that Ozzy Osbourne wears. Like that's a crazy cool thing. That's a crazy cool thing. Like when I put on my LGFG garments, I feel proud that I know that I'm wearing stuff made by the guys that do Alice Cooper. Like that makes me feel proud of this brand. And I hope our clients feel that when you put it on, you're like, hey, like, yeah, I got the same tailor as Alice Cooper. That's cool. Like it's not just about the functionality of the clothing. It's not just about dressing up. It's about feeling like you're part of something. It's about being cool. Like, let's just say it for what it is. I like being cool. I like feeling cool. Do you? Yes. Let's like rock and roll, man.
It's also the spider suit. We were originally called the Spiders. And my dad, who was the cover of GQ magazine, I mean, he looked like that every day he went to work, built a giant web behind the band because we were the Spiders. And so this is extremely significant.
So my experience with Alice Cooper, absolutely wonderful man, absolutely fascinating, hyper intelligent, incredibly creative. He contributed some ideas to his wardrobe, which I didn't even think of, and they were so fast. Like that's what surprised me is how quickly he's able to create ideas. He's oozing with energy. He's oozing with ideas. He is truly an outlier of a human being. He elevates the energy of the room instantly. One thing too between Alice, like I've worked with both Alice and Ozzy now, and there's a big difference. Like Ozzy's much more introverted and observant. Ozzy's very sharp, but he's a listener. He's an attention payer. Alice is a storyteller. I had an incredible time just conversing with Alice and learning from him about storytelling, learning from him about creativity, learning from him about just having a zest and an excitement for life. He's an incredibly optimistic person. And so that was my experience with Alice Cooper. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot of him. And I'm not just saying that to ingratiate. Like it was like a legitimate experience. I think between everybody I've hung out with him, with like from a celebrity perspective, and there's been lots, Alice and Rob Schneider stick out to me as two people with an incredibly positive energy who are very open and very liberal in telling stories about their past and how things came together, because they know that these stories, we value those stories. We, the proletariat class, we the civilians, we value stories like that because they inform us and educate us and inspire us as to the pop culture that actually shaped our youth. And that's very, very cool. And the person is bigger than the story. The person is even better than that story. And that's like, talk about meeting your heroes, right?